today. Big guest list. Excited for it. Braun, Kratz, AJ, OG crew here. AJ, we didn't have you yesterday, so how was your first Fox game? You called little Braves Royals, and Reynaldo Lopez looked like he was okay, right?
Yeah, his velo was there, which they were worried about. It was a great game. If you didn't see it, walk-off grand slam for Dom Smith. Braves were down 2-0. I tell you what, man, I don't know what's going on with Carlos Estevez, but ooh boy, his velo was down, and I think that's got to be a concern for the Royals. He was like 89-90. It was weird, and he didn't really have a lot of stuff that day, and he gave up his sixth spot, obviously. Took a ball off his foot, I think. Wasn't good for him, but the Braves pitched really well. Sale pitched well. Lopez pitched well. The bullpen was nasty for the Braves, so they're off to a nice start. But it was a great game. Dom Smith, walk-off grand slam. You don't get to see those very often, so that was cool.
Yeah, that's true. And we talked about it yesterday. In case anyone missed it during Slap Hands, we talked about the connection for Dom Smith, who had lost his mother just a couple weeks prior. So yeah, cool game to start the year, full of emotions and storylines and all of that. All right, we have a stacked show for you, like I said. So we're going to charge fast right now so that we can get into some of these extensions that have been handed out. They usually get handed out before this, but let's run it.
Charging the mound.
AJ, extension season's supposed to be in spring training. What is going on here? We'll take it, though. Colt, Emerson, and the Mariners agreeing to an 8-year, $95 million contract. The deal includes a 9th-year club option, a full no-trade clause, and escalators that can bring it north of $130 million. Emerson is represented by Ace's agency. That's Robert Murray on the scene, breaking the news first about Emerson. AJ, Emerson, for some, is a question mark, because if you don't follow prospects, you don't know who he is yet. He's been on this show, but he has not cracked the big leagues yet. What do you think about deals like this for a player who has a super high ceiling?
Well, it's smart for both sides. Listen, I'm never going to fault a guy for getting, $95 million? He hasn't even sniffed the big leagues yet. Like, are you kidding me? If someone would have came to me when I was in AAA or AA and said, hey, here's $10 million, I would have been like, where do I sign? I'm never going to make that much money in my life. So I don't have a fault with this, and I don't understand it, but I don't know. I don't know how you can be mad at this. I know agents will say, oh, he could have got more, he could have got this, he could have got that, but then you have the guys who never make it, and what was the guy for Philadelphia? Kingery? Is that his name? Kingery? Scott Kingery? That signed like a $50 million deal. And
yeah.
Never really listen, here's what teams do. Teams go to the players. They go around the agent and go directly to the players and say, hey, we'll offer you $60 million or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Will you take it? And then they go to their agent. And for some of these guys, if they're super excited to get it, and I can't blame them. It's smart. And then the team's like, well, we got this guy locked up for 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it is. And we know where he's going to stand. And I don't care what teams say. It helps them have a guy move up faster if they're making big league money in the minor leagues.
Oh, totally. Scott Kingery, I think, signed for $24 million, I think was his number. Jonathan Singleton was like 10 or 12. There were some other things with Singy in there that he had to kind of resurface his career later. But with Scott Kingery, I remember when he signed it. It was either 24 or 26 million. Yes, he didn't pan out. I don't think that's entirely his fault. I think, they moved him around. They thought he was a super utility guy, blah, blah, blah. At the time, I said, you want to know what big league teams think of $24 million? They're giving it to somebody who had 0 time in the big leagues. Did they think he was going to be a big leaguer? Yeah, absolutely. But they showed $24 million was fine. If this doesn't work out, we're fine taking a $24 million gamble, essentially. So now, with Colt Emerson, I'm not saying Colt Emerson is Scott Kingery. I'm saying that it shows the value of money to teams understanding that this is a $90 million gamble. I think we're past the times when injuries for position players are massive, career-ending type of injuries. It's more of, does this guy pan out to be an all-star? Does Colt Emerson pan out to be that guy? And teams are like, yeah, it's worth it. So this is how I gauge what teams think of the actual cash that's being given out. So I love this. I love this contract for both sides.
Yeah, he gets a full no trade clause, and AJ, he's 20. 20. So in 8 years, he's 28. In 9 years, he's 29. He still gets
What
another crack at free agency if he's a superstar, just like Pete Crow Armstrong will have.
what was the guy in Milwaukee's name? Not Emerson, the Pratt.
Let's get to
Pratt?
him. Cooper Pratt. You want to get to him? I can cue that up to get the money
because
out and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Let me set it up, and then I'll swing it right
Okay.
back to you, just so I can let everyone know about the money. So Cooper Pratt, even lesser known, I would say, prospect compared to Emerson, who's been in the scene for a couple years. Pratt was a 6th round pick in 2023, 6th rounder, so not a first round guy. 8 years, over $50 million guaranteed. There's 2 option years that can push this to around 80 plus. He's 21 years old. And last year was a full season in AA. He's played 3 games so far this year in AAA for the first time. Cut down his K rate last year. He's got a good on base percentage in his career. But last year, his slash line in a full season was 238, 343 on base, 348 slug. He does not have much pop in his profile right now. He's a defense first shortstop, and he is the 50th overall prospect ranked by our friends over at Baseball America. They'll have Hot Sheet later today, and they'll talk about it too. But anyway, AJ, your thoughts on this one for a player who I don't think has as high of a ceiling as Colt Emerson?
From what I was told, okay, he was defense first, base running, super fast, can cover a lot of ground, right? The team came to him and said, hey, here's what, 50 million? Was it 50, whatever, 50?
Yep.
I forget. I'm sorry.
Yep.
50 million, right? If you're him and you had these numbers in what, AA last year, would you not accept a $50 million contract? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like, I can't say no if I'm under 21 years old and they offer me $50 million and I hit 238 in AA with 8 homers. Yeah. Now, could he make more possibly? Yes, because people that I talked to, in baseball, because I'd never heard of this guy when he signed. I'm like, who the heck? So I reached out to some people I know. Most people say he'll be a solid big league player. He'll be a minimum a 2-win WAR guy every year because of his speed and his defense. Okay, but then if he figures out how to hit more, he could be higher. But he's still got $50 million in the bank, and he's 20 years old. 20? I think he's 20 years old. 21 years old. And you just, by the way, you got $50 million and you're in AA. Guess who's buying that McDonald's on the road every day in AA? This guy.
Oh, that better be Capitol Grill on the road now. Kidding me?
I mean,
50
still,
million?
but like,
That's
how do you
not
tell
bad.
a kid who's 21 in AA hit 238, here's $50 million? And I think his agent might be Boris, which, by the way,
yep.
remember, Boris never signs extensions except for when he
What?
does. But think about it. He's 21 years old. He's got this money in the bank. He invests this. It can grow, and he's set. No matter what happens. Same with Kingery when he did it. I don't know. I get why you would hold off if you got the chance to be a superstar. But if you're not, dude, take the money, man. I'm sorry.
This is guaranteed $50 million. If you got $50 when you're in AA, you're like, what are we doing with this? But $50 million for a guy who signed in the 6th round, he's done a really good job of maximizing value. 6th round, he signed for $1.35 million in the 6th round. That doesn't happen. So there's a solid ceiling that people are saying, okay, he's going to hit this type of ceiling. But to me, this is also what I just said about what teams think of what $50 million is. He didn't have a successful season statistically at AA last year. And now he's at AAA. And for a player, you really need to just get the opportunity. And this contract, when they bring these contracts to young players, they're probably not allowed to say the exact words, this will accelerate your time to the big leagues, but you know it will. And if he's defensively ready, you can learn to hit in the big leagues. And if you never learn to hit in the big leagues, because a lot of guys don't, you still have $50 million in the bank.
Also, by the way, let me add this. This isn't the Dodgers. This isn't the Mets. This isn't the Yankees.
What?
This is a small market team that did this, by the way. This isn't the Dodgers saying, hey, we lose $50 million. So there must be something to this whole we have money thing. Now, again, could he have gotten more? Absolutely.
No,
But he didn't. And he's set for life. Good job.
Brewers are ruining baseball now. They've locked up Christian Yelich years ago. They locked him up. They locked up Jackson Chourio. Now they locked up Cooper Pratt. What next? What next? This is hideous. This is unbelievable.
Yeah, let's show that board with the pre-debut deals as Kratz is talking. Go ahead, Kratz.
Guess who else is super excited about this? Connor Griffin. Connor Griffin's going, okay, I get what my value is, and I made the right call. Because if these dudes are getting it, and I'm the consensus number one overall prospect, I can wait.
Yeah, the contracts have now boosted the value for Connor Griffin before he even sniffs the big leagues, right? He turned down a deal in the low ones. Now he's going to be asking for the mid ones based on what's out there. Yeah, hey, I'm the top prospect in the sport. This guy's the number 50, and whatever Emerson is, it's not one. So Griffin's number goes up with that. Last part of the puzzle here. Is it curious to you that the Brewers do this, AJ? They have a lot of really good young talent. I'm sure they might have floated deals like this to others, like Jesus Mate, who's supposed to be a big deal. They have a number of other middle infield prospects that should be making their way up to the big leagues. They have big leaguers already that are middle infielders that should be in the bigs for a long period of time, like a Bryce Terang. They acquired Jet Williams. There's a lot there. There's a logjam. That's why, again, I think if I'm Cooper Pratt, I don't get lost in the shuffle anymore. I get paid. But do you think the Brewers are looking ahead at the CBA and wondering if things are going to tilt where younger players get paid more, and this is a way to get some cost certainty with a guy who could end up costing them more down the line? Because I look at someone like Cooper Pratt and I'm like, what's the ceiling? Is it Brendan Donovan and a better defended, Donovan's a good defender. Is this a better defender, Brendan Donovan, who's shortstop but can bounce around and has a good on-base percentage, not a 25-plus homer guy?
Yeah, I think exactly what you said, Scott. They're trying to get ahead of this because they don't know what's coming, right? So they're thinking, because everything I've heard is if they push hard for salary cap or whatever, but they want to up the minimum. Everyone I've talked to and heard talk says, well, if you just up the minimum and then you can bring down the top, then there's your salary cap and your salary structure and all that. Take it from, what is it, $750 or $750 and $8 right now, make it $1 million or $2 million. Then that makes other people happy and all this and that. So, yeah, I think this is a way of teams to get in front of it. And I think the Brewers have always kind of been in front of the curve with certain things, whether it's signing guys, making trades before they needed to, people say, but then it works and they're still competitive. I think this is smart. I mean, Matt Arnold is not a dumb person. Mark Antanasio, the owner of the Brewers, is not a dumb person. And if you're the Mariners, is J.P. Crawford a free agent at the end of this year? I don't know his contract status, but
I believe so. I'll double check.
Okay, so then guess what they did? They just signed up their hopeful shortstop for the next 7 or 8 years, right? Depending on when he comes up. So, boom, why would you not if you're the Mariners? Hey, we know we're going to pay our hopeful starting shortstop for the next 7 or 8 years. That's a win for the organization, and it's a win for a 20-year-old kid who just got 90, could be $100-something million.
Exactly, and JP is a free agent after this year.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And there's different companies that pop up buying value in players early on to give them the money. To me, when teams do this, they're just doing that themselves. They're just doing. There's a reason those companies start. There's a reason that people go to minor league baseball players and say, I'll give you X amount of dollars for future earnings. They're not doing it because they're like, well, I had some extra money. I feel like being a charity case. No, there's value in signing people up that aren't making a lot of money. And when teams can find that value and do it and be like, okay, this is the amount of risk. Plus, we've seen them. We see how they work. We see how they play day in and day out. To me, it's a no-brainer. And to me, I think teams should do it more. And it can benefit the players, especially if they're not taking these contracts out till they're like 32 years old. They still have their prime years to be able to get those contracts.
Yep, it's called surplus value. It is a great way to show your ownership group how much the player is worth versus how much he costs. Let's ask Ken Rosenthal about this when we swing back.
Got energy to do things.
This one's for the dudes looking for that peak bedroom performance. Blue Chew just dropped their newest innovation, Blue Chew Gold.
Blue Chew is the #1 chewable ED brand. And yes, Blue Chew Gold dissolves under your tongue and works in as little as 15 minutes. Peak passion and peak performance in a single tablet. See why millions of men trust Blue Chew now with a gold standard upgrade that is changing the game for good. Make life easier and discover your options at BlueChew.com. And we have a special deal for the FT fam. Get 10% off your first month of Blue Chew Gold with code FOUL. That's promo code FOUL. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast. This is the future of performance. Faster, smarter, and precision engineered for results. 2 ingredients for blood flow with apomorphine and oxytocin to turn up the arousal and connection in your brain and body. It's Blue Chew. Hey, we're going to show this video of Luis Castillo dealing a pitch that was called a strike, and then ABS said, no, it just missed. And Pitching Ninja said, umpire incompetent or a rulebook ABS mismatch issue. This pitch may have been both. A strike according to the rulebook strike zone 3D at the front of the plate, and a ball according to ABS 2D measured at the middle of the plate. AJ, I'll give you this minute here to rant, and it'll be like a good prequel to our Joe West conversation later.
The strike zone is 3D. Why is it not 3D? That's the only thing. And I reached out to some people at MLB to try to get an answer, and I haven't heard back from them yet. But it's the strike zone is supposed to be 3D. And for everyone bashing Mike Estabrook and with the Yankees game yesterday, those balls were what, 1/8 of an inch or whatever it is underneath the strike zone. So okay, if that's the middle of the plate, well, the middle of the plate is about this far from the front of the plate. So if that ball is going down, it had to hit in the strike zone. So actually, he got it right. But he got penalized and got it wrong, and all the fans are like, this guy sucks. In reality, he actually got the call right. So this is where I'm confused with it. I thought the ABS was a 3D, like some of the broadcasts have the 3D plate with the thing, because that's how the strike zone's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be just a pane of glass. It's supposed to be like a 3D plate of the person. So I don't understand this. I don't get it. Why do we? If we don't have the technology, then why are we running with something that's not in the rule book? That's my question.
What I heard was that the 3D zone was less accurate, and it was also way bigger than intended, and they felt like it would hurt offensive production.
The Inside Scoop is presented by MLB 9 Innings 26. Great video game. Go check it out. We'll talk more about it later, but let's talk to Ken Rosenthal right now about these extensions. Extension season starting during the season this time of year, Ken. So what do you think of some of the latest that we just covered? Cooper Pratt for the Brewers, Colt Emerson for the Mariners before they reached the show.
Well, I heard you guys talking about the potential of a lockout and a work stoppage and the CBA and how that might be affecting things. I'm not sure that is true. Deals like Emerson's we've seen over the years, and he is a guy who's going to be in the big leagues very soon, and you would expect that, yes, they would try to sign him to an extension. We can cite any number of examples, guys like Colt Emerson who received extensions. Cooper Pratt is a little bit different, obviously. He has not had offensive success even at AA at this point in his career. But for Milwaukee, a small market team, they're taking a chance. They're gambling that he's going to get to the big leagues, and at that point, this will work out for them. So in each case, I don't know if you're a team looking at anything going forward, and you can say, well, there might be a lockout. We might lose half the season. We might lose all the season. We might lose 2 weeks. I don't know that you can operate that way. You can't operate in the dark. So you have to do and make moves that are in front of you and do the best things for your organization under the current set of circumstances. And we've seen that with the Cubs signing their big deals with the guys the last couple of weeks, Pete Crow-Armstrong and Nico Horner. And now we've seen this with these extensions.
Do you know the rules on, are teams allowed to say, yes, we're going to call you up if you sign this extension? Is there verbiage where that's not allowed? We assume that, but I hate assuming things.
I don't know that it is in the CBA that you can not do that. I don't know, honestly, Eric. And clearly these things are dangled from time to time. to players because teams want them to sign the extensions and then get them to the big leagues. That is definitely something that we've speculated on with regard to Connor Griffin. But I don't know that it even affects Emerson. I'm sure he'll be in the big league soon, but he was going to be in the big league soon anyway. And Pratt, he's not going to be in the big league soon, and that's not going to change with this extension. So I don't know exactly what the rules are there. My guess is you cannot do that, but I don't know how the CBA reads in that form.
Am I correct in saying that when I look at a contract like $90 million for a guy who's not in the big leagues yet, will be soon, that's a way of us as fans valuing what teams actually value $90 million? Because it is a gamble when you don't have a player that has any big league service time, and we don't know if he's going to be able to hack it in the big leagues. Like, is that showing us 90 million is really not that much for these teams?
I don't know that I would say that, Eric. It is interesting that a small market team like the Brewers just plunked down 50 million for a guy who has not even hit in Double-A. You would say, well, if the sport is so broken, how can that happen? The Brewers would counter by saying the sport is broken and we have to do that to make sure we have control over certain players that otherwise we would lose. That's a debate that will, of course, go on and on throughout. But in terms of Colt Emerson, these teams all have models, projection models, basically statistically based things that they use to see or envision what a player's performance might be going forward. Sometimes the models are accurate, sometimes they're not, but they believe in them for the most part. And they are seeing something here with Cooper Pratt, the Brewers are, and clearly the Mariners are with Emerson as well. But Emerson's a top 10 prospect in the game. Again, different story entirely. So when these teams look at these models and determine, okay, we think he's going to be this for this long and project him out that way, they value that and they determine whether an extension of this magnitude in Emerson's case is worth it. And obviously, the Mariners believe it is worth it for them. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it. Same thing with the Brewers. They're not doing this unless they think they're getting a deal.
Ken, is there anybody next?
I'm sure there are conversations going on. There have been conversations going on with Connor Griffin. And we have a whole host of rookies right now that are in the early season performing extremely well. Go from Sal Stewart to McGonigal, right down the line, Weatherholt. And these conversations, AJ, you know this, they take place all the time. Now, do teams always get them to the finish line? No, they don't, because some players do prefer to go year to year and believe that is in their better interests. And in many cases, it is. But then there are examples like Scott Kingery. Remember him? He got a deal from the Phillies, I believe it was $25 million, really early, like within a week or two of his career starting, if I recall correctly. And he has not proven to be a quality major leaguer. So there is some risk involved. I would say there's more risk with Pratt than Emerson because we don't know what the bat is going to be. But at the same time, teams don't do these things unless they feel it's going to work out for them.
Hey, I've got one more while we're on this topic, Ken, and then we can move on. It sounded like Gunnar Henderson was interested in doing something, and I know the Orioles figured out Samuel Basallo, but how important do you think it is for them to try and figure it out with a player who's going to cost significantly more money than the deals that we're talking about? I think some people get confused on what it means for service time and the arbitration number. Some people were confused about PCA and Nico Horner getting the same deal. And I'm like, that is not how it works. We're not comping the players. We're comping the status of where they are in service time. But anyway, Gunnar Henderson now, a few years into his career, Orioles fans are like, hey, if this guy's saying it, then you should at least make an effort. And then, I mean, I want to say, like, kind of leak it and say, hey, we gave it our best shot.
Players are always going to say they're open to extensions. And whenever I see on MLB Trade Rumors regurgitated story of a player saying, yes, I'd be willing to do an extension. No kidding. Everybody's open to people giving them money. Now, the question is, would Gunnar Henderson sign an extension that might be below market value? Because that's what these things generally are. He is represented by Scott Boras. Scott Boras also represents Cooper Pratt. And from that perspective alone, the extension for Pratt is surprising because Scott Boras, in general, not always, in general, prefers his clients to go to the open market. And why? Because he's been very successful at getting big deals for top players on the open market. So I would say the odds of the Orioles signing Gunnar Henderson long term are extremely low. And yes, they could offer him, I don't know, 250 million tomorrow, leak it and say we tried. But we all know that it's not going to be easy for them to necessarily, one, make that offer, and two, get it done at that number. And at some point, it becomes just window dressing, eyewash, if you want to call it that, because the chances are here that Gunnar Henderson is going to go to the open market.
You wrote that MLB's highly riveting ABS system is a good call. Do you think that is going to continue, or is it going to be something that the fuddy-duddies take over and say, no, it should be this, it should be that?
Well, there are always tweaks you can make to any new system or innovation. And I'm not saying that this is all over and this is great and forget about it. We're good. We don't know that. And we are going to see, as I pointed out in my column, we're going to see some outcomes that are maybe not so desirable. 1/10 of an inch deciding a game, and when the margin for error is greater than that in some cases, that's kind of debatable, right? But by and large, what we've seen so far, it's only been less than a week. Fans like this. It moves quickly. The players seem to be fine with it. They're adjusting to how to strategize with it. And ultimately, it does seem to me that it's good for the game. I didn't realize the entertainment aspect of it, the entertainment value of it, and it certainly has that. And yes, I know a lot of fans are saying, well, this shows the umps are no good and we're exposing them. The umps are good for the most part. There's exceptions in any profession. But for the most part, they do a great job. And yes, this is correcting egregious mistakes. The problem is, the one thing I can see going forward is, yes, 1/10 of an inch on ABS, and it will decide a call one way or the other. In that case, the player is effectively guessing. He's not that good. His eye is not that good. And he's taking an educated guess, and hopefully it's going to work out for him. That doesn't mean, and I believe AJ was just saying this, that the umpire is bad. Like Mike Esterbrook last night with those margins that he was missing by the plate umpire in the Seattle Yankee game. That doesn't mean he's a bad ump. It means, according to ABS, that the pitch is maybe 1/10 or a little bit more than that out of the strike zone.
Well, Ken, I didn't say it was bad. I said I questioned why it's why it's not a 3D strike zone like it should be.
No,
because in the rule book, it's a 3D strike zone, right? So if it's measuring from the middle of the plate, not the front of the plate now, the middle of the plate, that's about 6 to 8 inches, right? I forget exactly how far that back. So if that ball is going down, that actually technically he was right, and he's getting blasted.
Right.
So and Kratz said that he heard that the 3D technology wasn't good enough. But if that strike zone is supposed to be a 3D box, not a flat strike zone, why the heck are we using ABS if it's not correct?
Well, it would be correct, I would think, AJ, according to what is going on right now. Now, could they adjust it eventually to 3D? I don't know. But the one thing about this right now is everybody knows what the strike zone is and has to adjust to it. It's a new zone. It's different than before. We know that. We've seen the diagrams of that. So it's not like the players are in the dark here. It's not like the umpires are in the dark. But yes, it's a fair question that you raise.
Ken, one of our guests coming on later is Joe West. Rarely do we get to hear umpires speak on strike zones, let alone speak on anything. What would be something that you've seen in the first week now that you would want to ask Joe West or a current umpire about what's going on in the game with ABS right now?
I would want to ask his opinion of it and whether he feels it is something that enhances umpires or detracts from them. And what I mean by that is it something umpires welcome because obviously now the big misses, and any human being is going to have misses, they can be corrected? Or does it tick an umpire off that, hey, I missed by 1/10 of an inch, 1/10 of an inch, and people are thinking, oh, I'm not good? That is kind of the rubber meets the road question that I have here. I would think that some umpires welcome the help as they did with replay. At the same time, and especially at a time, by the way, let me digress here, especially at a time when the ball is moving like never before and breaking pitches, and when the pitchers are throwing harder than ever before, it's really hard for the umpires, the plate umpires, to get everything right. So I would think they would welcome it in that regard. But at the same time, they are getting exposed, if that's the proper word, in a way that they haven't been before. We haven't been able to judge them in real time before. So that would be my question. Is it good, Joe, or is it bad?
Ken, let's finish with overreactions to the beginning of the season. And I'll try and look at some of the teams that are supposed to be pretty good off to slow-ish starts and kind of give you a dealer's choice. You can go off the board too, but I'll look at the Red Sox, specifically their offense. I'll look at the Giants, of course, with Tony Vitello picking up his first win now. And then the Phillies off to a slow start, and they got beat up by the Nationals last night. Again, we know for these teams, it's like they're 4 games into the season, but have you learned anything yet from what you've seen?
No. I'm least worried about the Phillies, honestly, because we've seen those players perform at a high level before. I've been worried about the Red Sox offense the entire offseason. I'm still not sure they did enough there, and it seems to me they've placed a very large bet on Roman Anthony, and I'm not talking about his extension. I'm talking about the value that he's going to have to bring to that lineup. All right. The Giants, that's a team I question whether their offense is good enough, period. And we haven't seen any indication yet that it is going to be a dynamic offense. You look at the names and you think, okay, these guys might be all right. I want to see it. So way too early to judge anything, including Vitello. My gosh, the guy has managed 4 games. When you did this as the San Francisco Giants, you had to know there was going to be an adjustment period. There was going to be a learning curve, and you can't judge Tony Vitello, maybe not even on the first season. So let's give it time there, and let's just see how they play and how he does as a manager before coming to any vast conclusions about who he is.
But can you judge Vitello and what he means to that clubhouse by the reaction of the players? Because when he said the other day, maybe they were a little amped up because of my speech, and then Robbie Ray and Elio Ramos both came out and were like, we're big leaguers. Like, it's early.
Yeah, absolutely, Eric. And I thought those comments were misplaced. It's 2 games at that point, and he should not have overreacted in the way he did by what he said. And the players kind of basically said, it's 2 games. We're not worried. So yes, you can judge these things in the moment, but I would suggest that comments like that are not ultimately what we're going to be assessing Tony Vitello on. And what he says to the media, yes, it can have an effect on the clubhouse, and it can be interpreted by players in a certain way. There is no doubt about that. And it's very easy. It's going to be very easy for him to lose that clubhouse if he says a lot of things that they find wacky and does things within the game. Major league players are, I think, almost inherently suspicious of a guy like him coming in. That said, give him time. My gosh, I just can't get ready to jump on somebody after 4 games or after 2 games.
Yeah, come on. I mean, we even had some fans in the comments that I was going through last night on YouTube saying, what's a good judge, 30 games? I'm like, no, I don't think 30 games is even close. I was like, at least half a season.
Scott, last year, well, I don't remember the date exactly. What was it? June 10th, when the Mets led the majors, right? They led the majors in every category, or not every category, but in wins, the winning percentage. They had the best record in baseball. June, whatever that number was. Late in the season, Detroit Tigers, way up on the Cleveland Guardians, blew that lead. I'm not saying we can never judge, of course not. And that's kind of what my job is, right? To evaluate and look at things as we go along. But you got to be reasonable about it. And you have to have in your mind that this is 162 games, 6 months. It is endless. And so much will happen between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, good call. The pitching crumbled for the Mets, and it was like among the best in baseball for the first couple months of the season. So much will change. Ken, good stuff. We'll catch you later in the week.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Ken Rosenthal with Fair Territory yesterday. The usual schedule here running Mondays, and those are live, by the way, and then Thursdays live. Extra Grill and Ken questions for you Thursdays too with Alana Rizzo, Running Point with Ken on the FT Network. And MLB 9 Innings 26 sponsored a little inside scoop. Thanks to them, you can download the game for free. Game-changing swings, momentum-shifting pitches, Trout at the plate, Kershaw on the mound, and the new generation of fireballers led by Paul Skeens. Their ads are the best in sports, so watch this one.
Skeens' arm strength is just crazy.
I mean, a Cy Young, 2nd year.
He doesn't even look like he's trying. It's just effortless.
The ball comes out differently. You just can't see it.
what's scary is there's really nothing the guy can't do.
Babe, can I get some help?
This episode is brought to you by Fox One. Go get that new app. Stream baseball, stream football, stream World Cup action. You'll be watching.
Oh, definitely. I can't wait. I actually want to try and get to a game. But while I'm there, I'll still have my Fox One app. I'll have MLB, the great shows that Fox has, college football that I love, college basketball. They have it all. This really is the app that you can get all of anything you want to watch on an app. Fox One has it, and they are great at it.
Yeah, the big sporting events. And by the way, the World Cup is June 11th to July 19th. You can get a free 7-day trial of Fox One, so go check that out. And you can start your 7-day free trial today. Offers are subject to change. Go to Fox One for complete terms and conditions. Fox One, streaming now. Hey, we're here, and I want to point out the Baseball America tweet from J.J. Cooper's article that is fresh on the rule changes in baseball. This is going back for a while now, AJ. I'm critical because I want these rules in the league earlier. ABS is the one where you can make a case that they were getting the tech down. Pitch clock for me was ready a long time ago, but here's where credit is due. The ones they are selecting to be implemented in the majors are working. Pitch clock, ban on infield shifts, NLDH, reduction in pickoffs, 3-batter rule, ABS challenge system. Do you agree that they're nailing what they're changing? Because there are probably some rules being toyed around with that would not work out so well.
I think most of these have all worked. I don't know what hasn't worked. I mean, bigger bases, more stolen bases, less shifts, more hits, more offense, everything, quicker games, which we all know that I love because I don't have to talk for 3.5 hours. You only have to listen to my tired act for 2.5 hours. So that's fine. I think everything they've implemented has worked. Now, the ABS, I think it needs some tweaks. I think it's been good. The fans have been receptive. The players have been receptive, but most of the stuff has been good.
Yeah, it has. I think it's changing the way that fans, of course, young and old, are viewing the game, enjoying the game. ABS challenge is so entertaining. Yeah, they might have to get some kinks worked out, but you're seeing fans roaring like it's a home run on pitch getting overturned. Will that change? I actually don't think so. I think it's going to carry, Kratz. I think the fans are going to be excited like that from here on out because we live in a world where people love trolling and they get to say, haha, told you so to umpires.
The only way it changes is if for some reason fans aren't engaged in it. They're engaged. No stoppage in play do fans ever not pick their phone up. Now, this stoppage in play, they leave their phone down and they're all riveted to the screen.
Front office unfiltered resident GM Jim Bowden joining us right now, and also the star of, you see it on his sweatshirt, GM Territory. It's a money logo. Make sure you check that show out. But many of these topics get covered over the weekend with him. Let's start with the extensions. Perfect timing to have you on, JB. What do you think of the latest? Colt Emerson and Cooper Pratt signing up to big money before they hit the show.
Yeah, so let's start with Colt Emerson. I think Jerry DiPoto and the Mariners did a really good job of tying up a future all-star shortstop. 8 years, $95 million. They got a club option that basically you control the player for 9 years. So I get 3 arbitration years and I get 3 free agent years at $130 million. Oh yeah, thank you very much. Might have another. Roman Anthony got 9 years, $130 million from Boston. Jackson Merrill got 9 years, $135 million from San Diego. Colt Emerson belongs in that conversation with those 2 players. He's going to be a star. And so the club wins these deals. They just do. As long as the player lives up anywhere close to how we kind of view that he's going to, they're going to win. And I guess the example I always use with everybody is Ronald Acuna Jr. versus Vladimir Guerrero Jr., right? They both came up at the same time. They were both considered the 2 best prospects in baseball. One of them decided they wanted that long-term $100 million deal early. So Ronald Acuna took it. That's great. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. said, nah, I'm going to go through the system. So he went through the system. By the time he got to being a 5+ and he's getting close to free agency, he got a $500 million deal. So this year, Ronald Acuna will make $17 million. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. will make $40 million. Next year, Ronald Acuna Jr. will make $17 million. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. will make $40 million. What's that, a $23 million differential the next couple of years? Yeah, that's what happens. So you get that security early, you get that first contract so you never have to work again, and you leave a lot of money on the table. And that's what Colt Emerson just did, just like Ronald Acuna did several years ago.
Thinking of the Colt Emerson contract, and then also thinking about Connor Griffin sitting in AAA, is there a way that those players could increase their value in AAA? Say Colt Emerson said no, and then you spend 2 months. Who cares if he hits even 400 in AAA? What's he going to get? 92 million? So is there a way that a player can increase their value? Or is it like, hey, the team comes to it, you make your counter, the team counters? That's pretty much all the negotiating you can do, correct?
No, I mean, I think if I'm Connor Griffin, the Colt Emerson deal just made me some money, because I'm going to argue that the Colt Emerson deal that was negotiated by Seth and Sam Levinson of Aces, I'm going to look at it as 130 million over 9 years. And so if you're worth 130, then my argument is Connor Griffin's now worth 150 or 160 if he's going to give that up, because he's graded a lot higher in terms of how we project the player. So I do think that the Emerson deal does move the market some. So I think Connor Griffin, by waiting a few weeks or whatever it's going to be, will benefit from that. I think the market changes, not because of what he's doing in the minor leagues, of course, but more what the market just did with Colt Emerson.
By the way, you mentioned Acuna and Vlad. There's one difference for me, Jim. Vlad had a Hall of Fame dad. Ronald Acuna did not have that. So Vlad had a little bit more security probably in his family. And teams know this. Am I wrong in thinking that teams also know that, hey, backgrounds of players, who's more likely to accept extensions than others?
I never looked at it that way at all. I tried to offer fair deals to players. I think Acuna got a market deal. Look, there's risk on both sides, right? What do we have? 2 ACLs on Acuna. So, I mean, the Braves, they paid a little bit of a price there, right? For doing it. And Acuna took a risk. Look, I don't blame the players that want to do these deals. Like, you're that young, you haven't proven anything, and you're guaranteed $100 million with the idea that, Acuna is going to be able to go back on the market and make another $300 million, by the way. It's not like this is all he's going to make. But did he leave money on the table? Sure. But at the same time, he chose to have that job security. And so whether it because of your dad and maybe you're inheriting money, I mean, everyone's financial background is different. Certainly there are some people that just want that guaranteed money. They don't want to have to play every year for getting paid. So I think when you're running a club, you want to control players and you want to get them at the best possible deal. For the Seattle Mariners to get Colt Emerson at this dollar value, it's going to help them build the team around him. When he starts to get to being a 5+, a 6+, and those first couple of years, 3 years of free agency, Mariners are going to have a lot more money than if they had gone through the system with him.
All right. The other extension was Cooper Pratt, right, with the Brewers. Not a big market team, signing to a guy in Double-A who hit 240 last year, 238, right? Not a lot of power for $50 million. But I thought the Brewers had no money and low market teams can't compete and yada, 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 all the crap we hear all the time, Jim. Do the Brewers think there's more in the tank than what we've seen so far? They must, right, in order to sign him to a deal like this for a guy that, I mean, let's be honest, didn't do great in Double-A?
Yeah, so there's a lot there. First of all, what's eye-popping to me is he's a Scott Boras client. And Scott Boras has only done one pre-arbitration deal like this in his career, and that was Luis Gonzalez, if you remember. So kind of shocking. I reached out to Scott about an hour ago. I haven't heard back yet. I'm really fascinated to kind of understand what his thinking was here, because this is not a normal deal that he would do. I think from the Brewers' perspective, Matt Arnold really likes Cooper Pratt. He and Jesus Made, their future at shortstop and third base for this team, that's what they're waiting for, is those two guys to come around. This guy's 6'4", he's a really good defender. Going to stay at shortstop, he's a plus defender. This guy's been an on-base guy. He'll draw walks. He's got great makeup, good baseball IQ. I'm not that worried about the 238 batting average. I think when I'm looking at this dollar figure, though, I don't view it probably the same as you do, and probably the same as people looking at, oh, wow, that's 50 million. I look at it as it's only 50 million for 8 years. So even if he becomes an average player, even if he becomes a fifth infielder, 8 years and 50 million, it's not that bad. I mean, in the big leagues, we have guys like Nick Martinez that get the qualifying offer and get paid 20 million for 1 year. So I'm going to get him for 6 years plus 2 free agent years at a total value of 50 million. Now, look, we haven't seen the whole contract. There's going to be escalators and bonuses, and the 50 million is going to be deceiving. But, I looked at it, and what the Brewers need to do and what they should do is, how can I keep my players as long as I can? I can't keep Freddie Peralta past 6 years. I can't afford it. If I don't sign Jackson Chourio before he plays a single game, I won't get to keep him either. But, because Churio's got a chance to be 30-30 or more, like he's going to be a star. And they were able to lock him out. And look at his contract, by the way. His contract was in the 85 million, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So look what Emerson just got, right? So Milwaukee, by signing Churio, just saved millions there. So I just think it's reasonable for the talent. And I don't think there's a lot of risk at 8 years, 50 million. That's not a lot of money for an 8-year major league career, as long as you believe in the player.
JB, I'm going to mix in your thoughts on the rookie class by taking what we're talking about here and then asking you, who would you be nonstop texting and calling your owner about that you're seeing right now and saying, hey, let's just try and throw the bag at this guy because he is not going to get any cheaper. I mean, if you want to rank a few after one, but if you want to pick one from what you've seen in this opening week, go for it.
Yeah, and these are guys just in the big leagues, right? We're not talking Connor Griffin. Okay.
Big leagues only.
So Kevin McGonigal's one for me. And look, we've been comparing him to Chase Utley forever, but he's got a little Tony Gwynn and Wade Boggs in him too, right? Short, compact to the ball, love the swing. He barrels it up. This guy's a hitter. He's going to win a batting title in his career. There's no doubt in my mind. Anybody has that hit tool. Can I have more of him, please? Thank you very much. Not a lot of risk. Love him. Sal Stewart of the Cincinnati Reds, the real deal. I mean, Terry Francona had him hitting cleanup opening day. Terry Francona, he's not going to put a rookie hitting cleanup. Tito doesn't do that. You do it with Sal Stewart. This guy's a pro hitter, and if you watch his home run Saturday, it's like I got goosebumps everywhere. It was absolutely stupid. JJ Weatherholt's going to hit. There's no doubt in my mind. 20 homers, 20 steals. He's a high baseball IQ. He works hard on his defense. Eventually, he's going to be good at second base defensively. Still has some work to do, especially to his right, but I think he's going to really hit. And Chase DeLauter's the most fascinating one of all for me because I had never really seen him until October, right, of last year in the postseason. And I'm looking at that swing going, that thing's real. And then you watch him take BP, and it's like upper deck stuff. And it's like, I went back, I look at the stats, the guy's never hit home runs. I'm like, wait a minute. This is not translating. This does not make sense. But you go back, and he's had a lot of injuries. And, sometimes power usually is the last thing that comes from a guy like this. But, he's also really impressive to me, too. I love the start that he's had, especially after he pulled the first 3 homers, the other one going oppo. I was like, all right, with that backspin, thank you very much. So that was great. But to answer your question, McGonigal's my guy of all of them.
All right. Well, another guy that I'm pretty sure you're pretty high on, Paul Skeens. It came out that the Yankees offered 4 of their top prospects. I want you to evaluate from your GM seat who got that trade right and who got it wrong, because the trade didn't happen. Obviously, the Pirates turned it down. Or what else would you have added to say, okay, the Pirates would accept this?
So the Yankees should not have offered what is being said they offered. If they did offer it, I don't have confirmation they offered it, but based on the report that's there, the Pirates should have gone ahead and closed the deal immediately for me. So let's kind of go through why I view it that way. And I love Paul Skeens, don't get me wrong, but I know that when his free agent days are up, he's not going to be able to sign long-term in Pittsburgh. They're not going to pay him $400 million or whatever it's going to take at that time. So your length of life with Skeens in Pittsburgh. If in fact you were offered Cam Schlittler, I think he's going to be a 1. I said that last year, and that's before the development of the cutter this year. I think the makeup, the delivery, the stuff, I think he's a 1. And I just think he's an ace. LaGrenier, you watch him in spring training, 102, 102, 102, easy, free, makeup, character. He's either a top of the rotation starter or an impact closer. I don't know which one he's going to be, but we're talking, all-star games for him and Schlittler. So love both of them. I love Lombard. I think he's their best position player prospect in the system. I think he can play second, short, or third. Wherever they put him in spring training, he looked like a plus defender to me. Great instincts, good bloodlines, as we all know. Short, quick to the ball, great instincts, reads the ball off the bat extremely well. I love his takes. Going to be a star. And then Spencer Jones I don't know what he is yet. I know that there's 30 to 40 homers in there. I know there's 30 steals in there. I don't know how many strikeouts there are, 180 or 250. I don't know. I got to keep watching. It's a very bizarre approach, that two-step kind of lock thing in the back. So I haven't figured that out yet, but I know the tools are off. So if I'm Pittsburgh and I got offered those 4 guys that I could control for 6 years and not have to pay any of them for 3 years, I have a better chance of winning with those 4 guys, and I have a better chance of winning longer with those 4 guys. So if, in fact, they were offered that, which I highly doubt, Ben Cherington should have made that deal immediately and called a press conference.
All right, when you make 26 predictions, like your article is 26 predictions, you're guaranteed to stir somebody's hornet's nest, but you're also guaranteed to be wrong. So I'm willing to let you whittle it down to your top 2 predictions that you're like, these are locks, because we always love doing our locks on here.
Oh, I'll just take the simple ones. The Los Angeles Dodgers winning the NL West. Okay, I'm going to take that. I love that. Aaron Boone leading all managers in ejections with 10. I like that one as well. So I'll go with those 2.
That was easy.
There you go. Very easy. Yeah, I love it. JB, wanted to get your thoughts on Tony Vitello and the start there for the Giants. I'm not going to take much stock into what's going on the field yet, unless you think we should a few games into the season. But what do you think about the quotes? Do you think that the microscope's going to be on him? That's the biggest take that I have. Is I'm like, all right, he threw a try hard and he gave a big speech and stuff like that. We can analyze what he's done in the first week of the year, but also the fact that he's going to have more eyeballs and ears on him because he's doing something that really hasn't been done in our modern game. What do you think?
Well, yeah, first of all, of course, the eyeballs. I got my eyeballs on him. I'm fascinated to see if a college coach can go right to the big leagues without any professional experience and succeed. So, I watched opening day and I said to myself, why is Logan Webb still in there giving up 7 runs on opening day? Like, I understand later in the season, you want him to pitch through it. You want him to stay in the game. He can get through it. But it's opening day. I mean, he's never given up 7 runs in a game. Why am I leaving him on opening day to give up 7 runs? That was kind of perplexing for me. And then on Saturday, with the first base open, Ryan Borucki, the left-hander on the mound, Aaron Judge at the plate, 2 left-hand hitters behind him, and you don't pitch to Judge there. You walk him. And he pitched to him, and he homered and crushed the ambulance in left field. By the way, what's an ambulance doing there in left field? How many times is that going to get hit this year? That's a pretty stupid place for it, but that's another story. So, there's been some things that I'm watching, and then as the cameras zoom in the dugout, I kind of feel like at times he's like deer in headlights, and you watch coaches kind of talk to him, and he just kind of stares sometimes, which is kind of concerning. In terms of his comments after the game, and to me, it looked like a college coach trying to be a big league manager. Like, I haven't understood the quotes. I think that when you're coaching college kids, you can say whatever you want and they're going to respect whatever you say, and there's not going to be pushback. And if the media is covering you in college, they're going to write what the coach says. They're not going to write what the players say, right? And the players aren't going to contradict the manager. When you get to the big leagues, there's not a player in that dugout that doesn't have more professional experience than Tony Vitello. Most of them are getting paid more than Tony Vitello. So if Tony wants to sit there and say college stuff to major league players, they're going to push back. It's not going to play well. So he's got to figure that out. Look, you got to give him time. I like the man. I think he's a good communicator. I think he's got great energy. I think he's a lot of fun. I think he's over his head. So what do? We fix it. So how do we fix it? Well, if I am sitting there and I'm Buster Posey or I'm Zach Manassi, and this is what I'm going to do. I've got 2 guys on my payroll that are both going to be in the Hall of Fame someday. One named Bruce Bochy and one named Dusty Baker. I'm going to let them split the duties, okay? But what we're going to do after every single game and after every single press conference of every single game, one of them is going to sit down and go through the game with Tony Vitello. Going to talk about all the moves, what he did, what he didn't do, what he could do, what he should do. talk about what he's going to do tomorrow and the next day, what his thoughts on that, and then we're going to break down what he said to the media and what works and doesn't work. We want him to be himself, but we also want him to be professional and not embarrass us, which right now he's embarrassing us, is my take. So I'm for Tony Vitello. I want this to work. Don't tell me after the first week that it's working. It's not. And by the way, I'm not going by wins and losses. The Yankees have a better team. They went up against amazing pitching in Fried, Schlittler, and Warren. The bullpen was great. The losses weren't on Vitello, but let's evaluate him as a manager. He's not ready yet.
Perfectly stated. Mic drop moment there. Great way to end this one. JB, it was awesome catching up, as always. Much more on the show that's on the shirt, GM Territory. Check it out. Give it a sub. Everybody that's watching live right now, that would be great. Thanks again, JB. Subscribe to GM Territory. Jim and his son, Trey, part of the FT Network. You're getting one episode every single week, covering all the topics that we're covering here midweek with JB. Be right back.
Tony Vitello and Craig Stammen are in over their heads. Is this a reaction or overreaction?
Yeah, it's an overreaction. We got to show some patience with rookie managers. Look, I watching Tony Vitello in his first game, I thought he left Logan Webb in too long. To give up 7 runs, he's never given up 7 runs ever in a start, and let alone on opening day. I didn't understand that. I understand that Logan Webb's his ace and he wanted to be able to pitch out of it, which he did and kept them somewhat in the game. But at the end of the day, you don't leave Webb in that long. That was kind of questionable. And I thought the game on Saturday, I don't think with Ryan Borucki on the mound that he should have, I think he should have walked Aaron Judge in that situation. He had 2 left-hand hitters after Judge, including Bellinger. He let Borucki pitch to Judge. He homered and Judge hit the ambulance that's parked in left field. And first of all, why is there an ambulance parked in left field? Like, why would you put an ambulance where we know there's going to be a bunch of homers this year hit there? That was kind of silly. But, I think for Tony, game looked like it got a little fast on him. It's a big difference managing a major league team than it is a college team. There's a lot to it. I like Tony's quote saying he used to be able to talk down to his players because he was so much older than them, but now that the players are the same age, he's finding it difficult to lead the same way. Look, I think he's entertaining. I think he's a smart guy. He brings a lot of energy, but he does look a little over his head. But it's early in the season. And for Craig Stammen, glad to see him get a win over the weekend, get that first one out of the way. I think he's going to be fine in time. Look, you got to have patience with people that have never managed before. They're doing it for the first time at the big league level. Let's not overreact on this. Let's give them some time. Does it look like they're a little bit over the head? Yeah, probably. But at the end of the day, look, rookie managers are going to make mistakes just like rookie players.
Hot corner time. Let's start off with the Red Sox, but I'm also just going to open this up to you guys to see if you have any overreactions from the first week of the season. There are certainly some in Boston that are already a little bit perturbed, even though it's been 5 minutes. So we can show the tweet here to kind of sum up how some are feeling up in Boston based on their offseason. Did they do things? Yeah, they did a lot. They did a lot on the pitching front. Did they do enough on the offensive side? Gabrielle Starr said it's only the 4th game of the season, but it is quite a picture of the Red Sox offseason moves. 2 key pitching additions struggling, virtually no offensive contributions. They picked up Durbin. For the most part, the lineup's going to rely a lot on some of the youngsters like a Meyer and like a Roman Anthony. AJ, for me, I didn't get to throw my predictions in. We were busy running things around. The one team that I had, I said it the other day on opening day on a Orioles radio station conveniently. I think the Red Sox, out of the 4 contenders in the AL East, have the highest chance in my mind of missing the playoffs. That's just how I feel based on offenses. It is really hard for me to see the Yankees or the Blue Jays missing the playoffs. So then for me, it comes down to the next tier. I think there's tier 1. Tier 2 is Boston and Baltimore. And I think the Orioles have a slight edge based on their offense. The Red Sox might pitch a little bit better, but I think there's enough of a gap between those two lineups, especially when Holiday and Westberg come back. I'm not sure I see it for Boston. I think I see a good team, could be an 84-win team that misses the playoffs.
Well, the Blue Jays, if they keep losing starting pitchers left and right, it's going to be really tough for them. I mean, they're losing guys, it seems like, every time they take the field. So for that, it sucks. But as far as the Red Sox go, 2 of their offseason acquisitions struggled. Sonny Gray went 4 innings. Listen, Sonny Gray's a 5 to 6 inning guy at most anyways. If you look at his track record, he's always been kind of a 5 inning, maybe get into the 6 every once in a while kind of guy. And then Luzardo, I think, is the other one she's probably talking about. It was his first start. It was their first starts of the year. It's just amazing how, it was Ranger Suarez it started. Sorry, my apologies. It's their first start of the year. They've been 4 games. 4 games they've played. And we're all panicked about this. 4 1/3, 7 hits, 4 earned runs. Okay, so maybe the sinker wasn't sinking as well as he wanted it to. Again, it's been 1 start. It's been 1 start for Sonny Gray. Garrett Crochet looked amazing. We talked about how good Cincinnati's pitching is. The Red Sox played Cincinnati the first 3 games, right? They won 1 when Crochet threw a shutout, and then they didn't score. Neither team really did a lot of scoring. So they lost 1 game in extra innings. I think this is just trying to get people to overreact, which we're really great at today, especially with social media. Let's put a headline out there, and we love Gabrielle Starr, but let's put a headline, and she's not just the only one guilty of this. It's everyone. Hey, let's put a huge headline out there that gets people to click on our article, and then if you start digging in a little bit, you realize, again, much like Tony Vitello, it's been 4 games. They haven't even been through the rotation 1 time. Everyone chill out in Boston.
I think the Boston offense issues are going to be talked about the entire season because of the fact that they didn't re-sign Brett. It's the easy route. It's the easy commentary that, they didn't re-sign Bregman. Like, Bregman's not like an MVP candidate at the plate. He helped everybody else. He helped all the young guys in their plate discipline. So to me, that's where his value is going to be missed in this lineup. My opinion is they didn't do enough offensively. What wins championships? Pitching and defense. Absolutely. So is their defense the defense that started the year, first half of the season, or is it how they finished in the second half of the season, where they had guys that were a little bit out of position? Similar things are happening. They have one of the better center fielders in the game, but last year they were like, okay, he's going to be in center. He could play really good at second. To me, if they're going to have success offensively, because I think that's the question. I could care less about their pitching. I think their pitching is going to be legit. When you have 3 guys in Gray, Ranger, and Garrett Crochet, I think they're going to be totally fine. My question is, are they going to run the same lineup out there every day? Or are they going to do like they did on opening day? I think it was opening day, where they're platooning for Marcelo Meyer. Maybe he's not ready yet to be an everyday guy. To me, I think that's where, do they have the consistent lineup for these young guys to know they come to the ballpark every day, they're playing. They come to the ballpark on the 3rd game of a 3-game series and they go, I know what this team has done to me. I'm smart enough based on what I've learned in the big leagues. I'm going to make the adjustment and I'm going to have a much better 3rd game of this series. That's how I think this team's going to have success, not trying to be cute and nickel and diming here and there. So that's where I think the offense will do well for Boston, but I still think they're really built to be a 500 team, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I'm feeling. Yeah, you're a few shades above or below the 500 mark, and if you get a few shades above, you could sneak into the playoffs. It's a really, really good division. It's a gauntlet division. While we're on this topic, by the way, AJ, actually for me, since we're not going to talk a ton about last night, we'll spin it forward. I think the theme was all of the pitching that shined. You had some guys making debuts like an Edward Cabrera with his new team. You had Luis Castillo looking fantastic after Mariners staff said he looks as good as he has since a few years ago, with some pitch mix tweaks and with a little bit of a velo bump there. Lance McCullers going 7 innings, giving up 1 run for Houston. That one stands out. I mean, I'm probably missing a few. Mike Soroka making his debut this season, 10 strikeouts in 5 innings. There were a lot of good pitching performances. Bryce Elder carrying what he did late last year. Braves fans have been all over him, but he had the velo boost, and he again looked good in a 4-0 win for the Braves. Chase Burns looking good, picking up his first win. He's got big time stuff for the Reds, and I think could be the difference maker for them hanging around in a wild card spot while Hunter Green is out. And what else? I mean, that's a lot of. Oh, last one. You'll like this. Was he great? I don't think he was great, but he gave 4 innings, gave up 1 run. Roki Sasaki didn't look like the guy who was lost in spring training. So there was a lot to like yesterday from a pitching standpoint.
Yeah, it was a lot of. It's also cold. It's early in the year. Pitchers are always ahead of hitters, I feel like, early in the year. So let's give him. But there was Colin. We didn't even mention early, by the way. He pitched really great for the Red Sox in his 1 start. So let's not forget about him. Listen, pitching has been great. The scores have been way down for me. There's a lot of low scores, 3-2s, 3-1s, 4-3s. Not a lot of 10-9 ball games like we saw in spring training. So the pitching has been really good, and it's fun to watch. If you like pitching and defense, I mean, Atlanta, everyone was worried about their starting pitching. Look at what they've done in their first 4 games. They've been pretty darn good. So I think it's the way it is right now. It's early in the year. And as far as Sasaki goes, yeah, he threw it over the plate. It's weird, Kratz, when you throw it over the plate, how much better you do.
Gee, bird days. Wow, what a novelty. Especially because you're not in the big leagues if you don't have good stuff. Gone are the days where, I mean, I watched Foster Griffin throw, he was 89-91. He was living on the corners. He was throwing from an awkward angle where, the ball was sweeping from a different distance that guys are not used to. Like, unless you do something funky like that, you throw it on the plate with good stuff, it's hard to hit. As much as AJ made it look easy getting 2,000 hits, I'm pretty sure he would say hitting is hard.
Yeah. One more shout out to Kyle Harrison, 5 innings, 1 run, 8 Ks for the Brewers. Many people high on what he'll look like with Milwaukee. And then, let's go back to Griffin. So that's my next topic for you, Kratz. So he goes 5 innings, 2 runs, 5 strikeouts coming from overseas back to the U.S., pitching for the Nationals, who are off to a 3-1 start. They pounded the Phillies 13-2. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on how we think the Phillies are going to look for the year after 4 games. But what did you think about Rob Thomson being tossed because they allowed Drew Millas to return to third after that replay review, the overturn out at first base?
I mean, I don't see how you can't get tossed. There's certain situations where when it doesn't go your way, you have to get thrown out. Like, it's just I don't understand. I don't understand how, like, the play is supposed to continue. The play is not stopped. When replay started, they said, play the play out. There is nothing that is telling you that this play is what it is, called on the field. You have to play it out. That is like one of the basic. I remember back in 2014, they were like, if there's a play it like it was called safe, it was called out, whatever it is. This is a live ball. There's no way he should have been given the base because they said it was the third out. No. You play it out. I completely agree, and now I was glad to see Donnie Baseball at the helm for the Phillies last night.
Listen, here's the problem we have with replay. This is one of those situations where do you put runners? What do you do with them? The runner looks up. He's rounding third. He sees the umpire call him out. Should he have kept running? Sure. But most guys are going to stop. They're like, okay, third out. They don't even think that far ahead of replay or whatever. Now, I give the pitcher for the Phillies credit. He fired it home. Marchand tackled the guy at third, which was also kind of funny, but then he helped him up. But Rob Thomson has to get thrown out of this game. But this is one of the weird things with replays is sometimes they don't know where to put runners. And they also can't – the thing is you can't go back to the replay and say, oh, well, he was going to score. He wasn't going to score maybe. the easy thing to do was to put him back third. Was it the right call? I don't know. It just is funny, but Rob Thomson did the right thing. He had to get kicked out. He was defending his player. They were getting crushed by the Nationals at home. The fans are already starting to boo in Philly. They're like, this team stinks. Da, 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 da. And by the way, when we did our predictions the other day, I said no manager I didn't think was going to get fired. I didn't want to say any. But when you talk about managers that are probably a little bit under pressure because, listen, Rob Thomson, we love him. I think he's a great dude. I think he's doing a great job. But the guy sitting next to Rob Thomson on that bench is Don Mattingly. He's managed before. He's had success before. You can make the argument he should be in the Hall of Fame as a player. He's sitting right there, and he's an easy thing for Dave Dombrowski if things don't go right to say, hey, so Rob Thomson stand up for his guys. I like it. I understand why he did it. Was it the right call by the umpires? I don't freaking know. I don't know there's nothing in the rule book that says this guy has to go here and do this. So I don't know, but kudos to Topper for getting kicked out.
Yeah, he's going to feel more heat in the division this year. I think the Mets are going to give them more of a run, and the Braves are going to give them more of a run. You don't think so, Kratz? Yeah.
I think so. I think they definitely are. I think it's yet to be seen if the Mets pitching is Freddie Peralta going to be the guy. He has to be the guy. There's no choice. To me, I think this might be crazy, but I think the Mets offense is actually better than it was last year. I get it. They don't have Pete Alonso, but I just think it's a different looking offense than the at-bats are different looking than what I saw from the Mets last year. Obviously, it's 5 games.
Yeah. Hey, the Mets front office feel the same way. That's why they made the changes they made, despite getting some blowback from people. All right, coming up next, the Hopometer. What does that mean? Well, it judges how fans feel about their teams, and a fresh article will give us the results. Hey, there was a pretty tough-looking injury yesterday for Cody Ponce in his debut. He got $30 million over 3 years to sign back in Major League Baseball with the Blue Jays. KP, Kevin Pillar, who's a host on Bluebird Territory. You see him here on FT sometimes, former Blue Jays star. So don't want to speculate about Ponce, but I've been in sports a long time. I know what that looked like. I'm really hoping the best for him and that it isn't as serious as it looked. Waited a long time to be back in this position. We don't have word yet. We'll probably get word today on how bad it was for him. And like you mentioned, AJ, the Blue Jays are down some starters early on. People were like, where the classic, where's everybody going to pitch? What day? There's too many starters. Until then you go, wait, there's not enough starters.
Yeah, they've lost Ponce, Barrios hasn't, and then Savage already down. That's 3
Bowden
proven big
Francis.
league starters. And Bowden Francis is out for the year, right? So there's 4 they're down already, proven big league starters. So luckily, they do have some depth there, but man, I don't ever want to speculate. I don't know what KP was saying. I saw the injury. I don't know if what he was thinking. You never want to speculate it, but it didn't look good. Let's just hope and pray for the best.
Bieber too.
Oh, Bieber, yeah.
There's a lot of guys missing already. And this is part of the World Series hangover. You don't have to win the World Series to feel the hangover. I'm not saying that the playoffs cause the injuries, but you do see teams feel it, especially on the pitching front, after they go deep into an October run.
Let yourself get healthy. The Dodgers did it last year. I'm not saying their rotation is as good as the Dodgers. Let your rotation get healthy. You don't have to have 5 guys throw 31 starts. I texted Ponce this morning. He responded, so that's good. I mean, sometimes when guys are down and out about an injury, there's no response. So it's tough. It's tough when you do it in the first game. You come back to the States to play, and hopefully it's a speedy recovery.
Yep. Wishing him a speeding recovery for sure. And for the Blue Jays, they actually got beat up pretty good by the Rockies yesterday, and their fans were booing. The expectations get set very high very quickly. Yeah,
but the Blue Jays lost their starter in the first inning, so then they're scrambling to cover. So I mean, it was 1 game.
Guys were getting extended. Guys were getting extended in that game. Like they were pitching, probably should have been out after they got their first 3 or 4 outs. But in a game like that, you got to stretch that 3 or 4 outs to 7 or 8 outs if you can. And that's where they started to get a little bit thin yesterday.
Yeah, and if you stuck around, you saw another homer from Okamoto in the 9th. He's got 2.
That ball was so high.
Yeah, He's good. Good. I love these surveys. Stephen Nesbitt puts many of these together in The Athletic. Over 11,000 fans participated in their 5th annual Hope-O-Meter. How fans are feeling about not just the state of their team now, but going forward. And you'll see why this is interesting in a moment. He said 72% reported that fans are optimistic about their favorite team this season, compared to 66% last year, 64% in 2024. It was 75% in 2023. In the first year they did this, fans felt 66%. So obviously, more fans optimistic than not. That's a good thing. But he said some fans are just as juiced about a rebuild as their team being contenders. And that is why with this meter, you will see the optimism scores closest together for the Yankees to the White Sox. Yes, believe it. So it starts with the Dodgers. That makes sense. 99.8%. That's about as high as you can get that are optimistic. I have no idea what game the 0.2% are watching or what substances that they are having fun with, but you better be damn happy about the Dodgers right now. The Blue Jays at 96.2%. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just giving you an idea of the teams that are in the 90s, meaning fans are really feeling it. Mariners, Tigers, Royals at 94.5%. Cubs and Red Sox. That's the cutoff there at 90% plus. When you go on the other end of the spectrum, the teams in the 90s for pessimism, Twins at 95.7%, the Angels at 94.3%. Then there's a huge drop off. And you go to the Nationals at 75.8% and the Rockies at 74.7%. Of course, we have to go right to our White Sox expert, AJ Pierzynski, to get your take on why your most famous former team, the White Sox, are close to an Erik Kratz former team in the Yankees in terms of optimism. Your thoughts?
Well, 67.2% of people are optimistic about the White Sox. That's good because a lot of White Sox fans I talked to are excited about the young core they have. And then Murakami hitting 3 homers in 3 games. There was a lot of people that are excited about the direction of the White Sox. Now, do they wish they'd spend money? Yes. I was talking to some White Sox fans yesterday. They were like, man, we need to spend some money, get some veteran pitchers in there to lead some of these young guys. A little worried about the bullpen. But they see hope, right? Whereas to me, the more surprising thing is the Yankees. Why? Because they brought back the same team, or people that are Yankee fans just inherently more negative than others. You would think the Phillies would be down there with the way they treat sometimes their players. But, hey, listen, the White Sox fans are, I think, optimistic, 67, that's 2 out of every 3 people are optimistic about the White Sox. I think the White Sox will take that, right? The Twins, there's like nobody optimistic about the Twins or the Angels. You know what that is? That's a long time of not doing much to make the fans happy and not being any good for a long time. So, heck, if I'm a White Sox fan, 2 out of 3 White Sox fans are happy, it's pretty darn good. You can't get 2 out of 3 people to agree on anything.
That's fair. I like that. I like that. But I think the optimism is in 2 different things. The White Sox optimism is in the fact that, just like AJ says, can't get any worse than it was 2 years ago. Like, they're optimistic because they're like, hey, we're moving in the right direction. But I would caution White Sox fans, you can't make chicken out of you-know-what. So my thing is the Yankees, the pessimistic fans of the Yankees, and people be like, oh, Yankees fans are always so tough. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's the fact that they're running the same team back. And so they're like, well, we didn't win a World Series last year. Why are we going to win a World Series this year? And to me, that's a negative thinking. Like, I think if it was, do you think your team is going to win the World Series? I think the numbers would be completely skewed. But this is just optimism and pessimism. Like, hey, yeah, we're moving in the right direction if we're the White Sox. Yankees, I don't know if we're moving in the right direction, but our only successful season is going to be a World Series championship. So that's where I think it's ironic that they're very close. But in a lot of ways, they are extremely far apart.
And just giving you some context on reading fan comments that were included in the article themselves.
Hold on, Scott. The Rockies, by the way, are 25%.
Yeah.
So 1 out of every 4 Rockies thinks they're going in the right direction. Their hope? What's their hope in? I guess it's Paul DePodesta, right? In Burns,
New front
the
office.
new GM.
Yeah. Yeah, they
It
went
has to
outside
be,
the
but,
organization for the
what
first
have the
time since
Rockies
Tom.
given them in the last forever to be optimistic about? I love the Cliffs too, by the way. The Cliffs. And by the way, the Cardinals fans, forever were optimistic, but now they're down, but they're starting to come back up because they see Chaim Bloom and Ollie Marmol. Those guys can maybe figure some stuff out. But the Rockies are pretty flat that they're just not very optimistic about anything.
They don't make a change. They haven't made a change. The Rockies, I guess that would be the one optimistic part, is the fact that they stopped employing all the exact same people that have been buddies since whatever year they came in. And they're like, oh man, remember in 2004, the run that we made, and 2018 is not that long ago. Like, it'll come back. No, there was no optimism before for the Rockies. So maybe that should be a little uptick in the chart, because they actually made a change, unless Paul DePodesta is just, a mouthpiece for all the people that were there before. But I think they're willing to make the change. To me, they're years behind, and so it's going to take a little while.
The two biggest factors here are either growing young talent that turns into a young star or one of the top prospects in the sport. That's why you see the Pirates surge back up. It's not just Skeens, it's Connor Griffin that make people excited. With the Red Sox, we just talked in an earlier segment about how some fans feel as if they didn't do enough for the lineup, but Roman Anthony kind of overrules a lot of this. This isn't just optimism for this year. This is kind of here and going forward. So that helps. For the Orioles, they're very high up, coming off a mid-70s win season last year. Why? Because they did a lot in the offseason, including picking up Pete Alonso. So I'm just going off some of the fan testimonials that we see in these articles. So that's a big difference. Guys, the A's are skyrocketing with the young talent they have and the fact that they're keeping a lot of that young talent. So if you're a fan, you finally get to see some guys there long term. AJ, we don't have to go too far back to look at Matt Chapman, Matt Olson, etc., and a number of star players that they weren't able to keep. They're locking guys up early.
Agreed. And Langoliers and Kurt should be next. Let's get that. Let's get those two done next. You have a hell of a core there if you lock those two up for a long time, but. Yeah, fans are fickle. We all know that. Fans are fickle, as they should be. And they go with the flow. They go with the ebb and flow and the tides and up and down and how they feel that day and how the day goes or how that week goes. We've already talked about guys like, oh, the Red Sox are trash. Their pitching stinks, right? And Tony Vitello doesn't know what he's doing, this and that. I mean, we'll see. It's so early in the season. But I do like the hope, because this should be about hope. And the teams at the top are usually the best teams. And then there's teams like the Yankees that people are just like, what are we doing? But the Yankees are pretty good, people. Let's give them a chance. They're going to be pretty good this year.
Yeah. I see a trend also. I mentioned the A's and then some of the other teams that operate, as low budget teams all jumped at the same time. The Pirates last year were 19%. They go up to 79%. The Marlins were 16% last year. They go up to 68%. AJ's White Sox from 9% last year, coming off the brutal record season the year before. Now they're 67%. You see a number of these smaller market teams that are jumping up, some of them due to young talent, some of them due to a little bit more spending this past offseason. So yeah, those are the biggest jumps that we saw, AJ, and they're all from those teams that operate in that way. Really, the one team that stands out on the other side, like we mentioned, is the Twins, who 2 years ago were 86% coming off the playoff performance, their first playoff series win, getting themselves to the DS, then 52% last year, dropping down to what AJ mentioned, 4%. So those are some of the risers and the fallers on this list. But to me, that's what stands out. If you're looking for a trend, some teams that have been picked on that haven't had a lot of success lately and haven't done much about it have all skyrocketed. It also shows how quickly you can win your fans back.
Yes. Be good. Spend some money, get the right player, and you spend. And by the way, the 2% that didn't vote for the Dodgers being pessimistic, optimistic, whatever it is, those are the same people that didn't vote for like Derek Jeter in the Hall of Fame or Ken Griffey Jr. to go into the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. They just said no because they wanted to be the person that said no. In reality, they should have just gotten in. I mean, right?
0.2%.
Just said, yeah. Who's mad at the Dodgers? They've won back-to-back World Series. They have the best roster again. They have the best player. They have everything going for them. What is there to be pessimistic about? They're not going to not spend money anymore.
They clicked on the wrong button. They were like, oh, can't take that back. And it just said, form submitted. You're like, oh, dang it.
It might be that small of a number because I'm looking. So they surveyed about 11,000 people here. I'm using some AI to help me out. So if you take an average of 367 people and take 0.2% of that, that's how many people press the wrong button. Let's see. So 0.2% of 367. So it's one person on that survey.
So that was the one guy who didn't vote for Ken Griffey Jr., the one guy who didn't vote for Derek Jeter, the one guy who didn't vote for guys that are surefire first ballot Hall of Famers. Like that's that one, just because they wanted to say I was that guy. And they also didn't put their ballot out there so people could say you're an idiot for being that guy.
Or it's just that one person that shouldn't be texting people at 2 a.m. Maybe they're a little bit groggy and they're doing it, and they do this survey at 2 a.m. and they messed up. That's the only reason you can look at that, because otherwise you should be one of the happiest fan bases of all time in terms of your optimism for what's ahead. It's not even just what they have, AJ. They too have one of the better farm systems in baseball. So if you're looking at the future, it's not even just the spending. And even if you're worried,
and they
things
develop,
are going to change. Yeah,
they take the 30th pick and make him into a stud. They take this guy and this guy, make him into a stud. So yeah.
So cool exercise. It actually shows that the game is in a pretty good place when 3/4 of the fan base pretty much are very happy and optimistic about the team's chances right now. Anyway, coming up next, we'll get set for our picks, and eventually we're getting set for Joe West to join us and talk about the first week of the ABS Challenge system, among other topics.
First, we had our first weekend of ABS, and Alana, I wanted your thoughts on that because, outside of CB Buckner's wild ride, it seems like it's gone off without a hitch.
But that's what you need to talk about, though, right? That's exactly why I think a lot of people were clamoring to have some sort of automated ball strike situation. CB Buckner, and you could see, and again, I know what these guys do is incredibly difficult in real time. I understand that, but it is a magnifying glass, if you will, on the fact that sometimes these guys are so unbelievably egregious that you need a system like this to keep them in. Angel Hernandez would have had to retire like light years before he actually retired. CB Buckner is also a guy that, you need to know who's behind the plate.
He's bad.
You need to know who's behind the plate in terms of when you go into the game and know what strike zone you're dealing with. I like it. I like the fact that they have this tool now to be able to make sure that they're making the right call. Now, I will say this as well. You need to also be smart about it. Like having it in the second inning in a 0-0 game, probably not the best time in the world to use it. Be strategic about when you want to use it. I understand. I watched baseball like all weekend long, like as many games as I could possibly watch, just kind of to see who was using it, how it was going down. And there are some guys that are already on a you're not allowed to use it list because some guys are doing it too liberally when they should really think about it more situationally. So I think it's important. I think it's a good tool. It can only help you, right? If you see the ABS challenge results so far, batters were 42% correct, catchers were 64% correct, which you would expect that, right? You would expect the catcher to be the most well-versed at whether it's a ball or a strike, and pitchers were 2 for 5 in terms of usage. They were about 40% correct. So I like it. I think it's a good thing.
BetMGM locks. Let's set it up. Let's look back at yesterday. I am ice cold. Kratz lost 2 and Todd Father 1. And he said he's going big. He's going big every bet this year. So good hit for Todd Father. Got himself some big dollars. We'll talk to him next week about it and update money bags. What is it? 0 for 3 to start the year. Got some other offers. Pap's off to a slow start. The rest are pretty close to level. So we'll get some picks. And real quick before we start these guys, because we're busy the rest of the show, hopefully with Joe West joining us soon, just a shout out to the team behind the scenes. Jeremy's directing today, and he puts a ton into the look of the show, and it keeps getting snazzier. We've got the crawl on the bottom. I know Derek, shout out to him too, helping out with that. The rest of the directing staff behind the scenes, Clint and Gab and Claude helping. So just wanted to shout everybody out behind the scenes. It looks good. The transitions look cool. So graphics are tight. Anyway, AJ, you're up first.
I'm going strikeout heavy today. Max Fried over 6 Ks in his start, and I'm going Andrew Painter in his first start of the year over 4.5 Ks, and that gets me to plus 273. We know how much I love the plus bet. So Fried over 6, Painter needs 5 Ks. I think he'll do that, and the Phillies fans will cheer, and that gets me plus 273.
Yeah, that's a nice chunky plus. And you're going a hundo to win 273?
Hundo to win
Nice.
273.
Perfecto. Kratz, do you have a parlay cooked up for us?
Yeah, as Philly fans, I want to get to Painter's first start today. A couple people texted me like, I got to get down there. So I love that AJ is also watching Painter's first big league start. But I'm going Bubba Chandler plus 5. So he just needs 5 or more. And I'm going Brandon Pfaadt with plus 4. And that comes out to pretty much even money at minus 108, putting down 108 to win 100.
Very nice. We have Pap's pick ready, so let's do that next.
What's up, all my people of FT? It's your boy Parlay Pap, and I know I'm down a little bit right now, but we're gonna make a run, so don't even worry about it. So here we go. I'm going with the Brewers and the money line. I'm going to parlay them with the Toronto Blue Jays. My boy, my old teammate, Max Scherzer. We're going to take them in the run line. We're going to parlay them together. And we're going to get plus 215, I think, in this one. So we're going to get that money today. And we're going to put 300 on it. So let's get that cheese, baby.
Oof. 300 to win 6 something, because it's actually plus 219 for Pap. Even better odds.
I knew it. I knew it. As soon as he was on the other day when Todd was on, was that yesterday or Friday? Whatever it was, I saw Pap's eyes light up. He was like, oh, baby, we going big. Any chance Pap gets to go big? He said it one time. He said, I do things like a big leaguer. And if you do little things, you're a minor leaguer. I'm a big leaguer. Pap's quote.
Yeah, well, Pap was on Friday, and that was Todd Father calling him out live. And Pap's a good sport about it, but then he is going to respond with his wallet, so he does. All right, I'll go last here. I'm just going to double down from what I did yesterday. I'm getting better odds on it tonight. I don't have to go 2.5 on the run line. I'm just going 1.5 on it this time for the Blue Jays to take down the Rockies on a bounce-back performance. Not like the offense didn't do anything. They lost 14-5, and I think that Scherzer will have a strong debut. He's going to feel the adrenaline. He's back in Toronto. He wanted to be. His family wanted to be. He looked pretty good in spring training. It was, I think, 13 and change innings for him. No runs allowed. You take spring training with a grain of salt, but he looked good. He looked healthy. He's going up against Ryan Feltner for the Rockies. So I think the Blue Jays take down the Rockies by at least 2 runs, and I'll double up what I usually do. It's 118, so I'll do 236 to win 200. So that's your board. We've got all 4 picks locked in for the evening. Do what you want with them. And also, we want to shout out this little BetMGM tweet that was thrown out there on how long it's been since the Rockies were above the 500 mark. April 1st, 2023. Over 1,000 days since they were above the 500 mark. And unless they do some damage here against the Blue Jays, that's going to remain the case, guys, because, AJ, they were swept by the Marlins to open up their season. So even if they win tonight, they're still 2-3. They're 1-3 to start the year. Chances are that being that they were swept and now they're already up against one of the better teams in baseball, we'll see them go another 300 some odd days without
Maybe. Unless they win the next two, then they get the Phillies coming in, who we all know suck right now. So, the Phillies are the worst team in baseball right now. So, if they don't win today, man, they ain't never going to, they better win the next 4 games because they're never going to get back in it. But, it's amazing, though. They didn't go 1-0 or 2-1 in the beginning of a season the last couple of years. They didn't win opening day.
Nothing. And they had the Marlins here, and the Marlins should be okay this year, and the Rockies should be.
Did you see what the White Sox did to the Marlins last night? The Marlins stink.
White Sox
stink.
White Sox are legit.
Oh, they're so good. You see what the Brewers did to the White Sox? The White Sox stink. Oh, wait.
That's the World Series. Milwaukee versus the White Sox this year.
Sorry.
National
Super
League
confused
American.
here.
Do you think the Marlins or the White Sox will have a better record this year, AJ?
I got to say White Sox just because. If I don't. Well, actually, you know what? No, I'm going to say Marlins. You know why? Because the Marlins have the greatest pitching ever assembled on one team.
He's never going to get over that one.
I've never seen so many fans come after us when we asked why they. And by the way, how'd Ryan Weathers look last night? How'd Weathers pitch last night?
They came after you. They came after you. They didn't come after us.
No, they came after me for asking why they traded Weathers, a controllable asset who's pretty good. How'd he pitch last night? How'd he pitch last night?
Very nicely.
They have a ton of pitching, AJ. Come on, get it right.
They have more pitching than they know what to do with.
They didn't need him. Waste of space. They're just waiting for Thomas White and Robbie Snelling. We're being sarcastic. The Marlins they should have, in my mind, close to 500, maybe a little below 500.
They're in a tough division, man. That division is for real.
Yeah, below. High 70s probably is the projection there.
If they get to 500, they had a heck of a year.
Yeah.
If they end the season at 500, they had a hell of a year.
I agree. No Stowers for the first month or so here too. Probably, if not, definitely a top 3 bat for them. All right. March Madness is still rolling, and so is the Court of Legends promotion right now. You can pick a twin to win a share of $2 million in bonus bets. Talking about the Cavender twins, part of this challenge. And to get this offer, you do 3 things. Opt in to the Pick a Twin to Win free play game. Select which twin, Haley or Hannah, you think is going to win the Court of Legends one-on-one basketball game hosted at the Bank at Bellagio in Vegas. And if the twin that you select wins the battle, you'll win a share of $2 million in bonus bets. Get more info at betmgm.com or check out the app. Gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER. We'll be right back. We're getting ready for Joe West.
What about Leahy? To me, he's old school because he's like, anytime they want me to have the ball, I'm taking it. Like he's not, I'm tired or, I pitched 2 in a row. You know him a little bit, Lance. Is he? He seems to be that old school type pitcher to me.
Yeah, no. When we were with him, he was trying to make sure that he was a major leaguer and put in the time and the work. I think in the offseason before he got taken off the roster, no one picked him up. So you're seeing a guy that, takes failure well because he turns it into what he's turned himself into now, right? And then he's seeing what he's able to do out of the bullpen, multiple innings with his arsenal. Now being able to take that to the rotation is going to be I think it's going to be fun for him. I think there's going to be some interesting moves that he's going to have to make with pitch usage, how he's going to, show certain things and not show certain things. Because as a reliever, you can come in and just kind of do everything. As a starter, he's going to have to pick and choose, different pitches to protect and use on different sides of the plate throughout the game. But he's got the ability to do all that, and he's not afraid, right? The old school mentality is, hey, I'll take the ball if you give it to me because I don't want to go down. That was his mindset. Now it's, hey, give me the ball. I don't want to go back to the bullpen. So I think he's going to keep that same mindset is, hey, I'm going to go get as many hitters out as I can for as long as they're going to let me. And I'm going to try to do everything I can because this is what I want to do. And I know I'm capable of doing it. So I think that's the main thing with him. He knows what he's about. He knows what he can do. He knows that he's a big leaguer, and then now he just wants the opportunity to keep showing people. And I think he's got all the tools to do it. And I'm looking for him I'm looking to see how he incorporates all of his pitches and to each side of the plate, different hitters with their weaknesses, his strengths. So that's going to be the cat and mouse that he gets to do now, and it's going to be fun because he's very smart too in everything he does. So I'm excited to see what he's got.
Hey, we're back. First off, if you're watching us on TV or wherever you're watching us, please subscribe to our Foul Territory YouTube channel, our podcast platforms, all of our social media platforms too. There's great hustle on there for you to check out. We're not going to do slap hands today, hopefully, because we're still working on the tech to get Joe West set up with us. So hopefully we can just run that through the rest of the show once he's good to go. So just throwing that out there. And also in terms of the rest of the week here, though, one name I do see on the guest list for later in the week is Tommy Canley. So looking forward to that. We'll react to the games, of course, for tonight in terms of who else we pick. A couple other things news-wise, guys. The Mets are hiring JD Martinez as a special advisor to baseball operations. It's going to be a similar role to what Carlos Beltran's doing, time around the players in the clubhouse, on the field, etc. He last played when he was with the Mets in 2024. So that basically calls it a career for JD Martinez, AJ.
Yeah, great career for him too, by the way. Great career for him. He turned himself. He was a prospect, and he came up and he couldn't hit, and he went back to work and he changed his whole swing and became a really good player that was on some really good teams. And congratulations, JD, on a great career. And he's one of the good guys too in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
Really change. I mean, you hear people change their swing all the time. I saw him in Houston. I think it was 13 or 14. So it was 13, and you were like, he was doing that like foot down super early. And then in 14, he went to Toledo with the Tigers and just hit like 10 homers in cold Toledo in April. And people were like, whatever. He's still hitting AAA dingers. And then he went and had an incredible run. 4-homer game. I think he made 4 All-Stars, 5 All-Stars, 6 All-Stars. MVP, 4th in MVP voting in 2018 World Series Championship. Sheesh. It's a good swing change.
Yeah, made a big impact on some teammates too. You know, he kind of became a pseudo coach at times for some, and you'll be able to see him do that now as a special advisor with the Mets. All right,
he made it when you film BP. He made it a thing to film BP, and he was the first guy to ever do that.
You'd always see like all the phones with the tripods set out before most of the other teams were doing it. And then other teams are like, maybe we should do this. And then everyone's doing all kinds of stuff like that. Anyway, let's step aside again. Hopefully Joe West when we swing back.
Has he figured out his roster yet and how guys are going to fit, or is it just a work in progress?
No, and I think the roster is going to look different in a few weeks. I do. I mean, I think this Giants team is, the core is going to stay the same, but I think on the periphery and how they manage a few of these positions and maybe how they decide to use the DH and is the bench constituted the right way. I think the Giants are going to look different in a few weeks, and it's going to take a few weeks for them to figure out what the best version of this roster is. So I think that's one thing. I agree with you. When the three of us talked, maybe even like 2 years ago, you probably would say the Giants and the Padres were like exact opposites. You know, the Padres had brought in Soto. They had all this star power. They were signing big free agents and position players and pitchers and like the star power and all. And then the Giants were just kind of puttering along and didn't have a lot of star power and platooning every position and, trying to win that way. And now you look at these two teams, I think they're in very similar positions. They're counting on a core of experienced players. I'm not calling them old because none of them are old, but experienced players who absolutely have to produce. You know, the Padres, if Machado and Tatis and Bogarts aren't good, the Padres aren't going to be a good team. If Adames and Chapman and Devers don't play well, the Giants are not going to be a good team. All the other stuff, I'm not saying it's not important. That's on the margins. That's how you go from good to great, and from a middling team to a playoff and championship contending team. But the core of these two teams feels very similar to me now in a way that a couple of years ago would have been sort of crazy. Managerial similarities, questions in the starting rotation, maybe after your top guy or two. Like, these two teams are a lot closer now than they were a couple of years ago.
Hey, we're excited to have Joe West join us right now. Here he is, a little giggle on the animation there. Joe, it's awesome to see you. And for anyone unaware, I mean, more big league games worked than any umpire ever. Joe, great to see you though. How you doing? And are you kicking back and looking at the current week of baseball with the ABS challenge system going, I wish I was part of this, or I'm glad I'm not involved in this?
I don't know enough about it to know whether I'd want to be involved or not. I just know that they're trying to make everything as specific as they can. They're trying to get all the umpires to call the same strike zone. When I first came to the major leagues, we had different umpires had different strike zones. We had Lee Wire. If it got there between the dugouts and in the air, it was a strike. And we had Dutch Renner that he had a little postage stamp back there, and so you had to know what umpire was behind the plate to know where to throw the pitches. But from the beginning of the Quest Tech and the zone evaluation stuff and everything, they've tried to make it uniform for all the umpires to be trying to call the same thing. I think the idea is a good idea. I don't know if they've gone about it as expeditiously as they can, because I understand that they still don't have a three-dimensional box for the strike zone that's still linear. And I think they moved it to the middle of the plate instead of the front edge of the plate. And I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know enough about it to give you an educated comment on it. I just know that the strike zone is three-dimensional, and what you're seeing on TV is linear. It's one-dimensional. And until they can get it where there's linear lines drawn up from the edges of the home plate on both sides, and in the complete pentagon, three-dimensional issue that it is, I don't think it's as accurate as it can be. I mean, do I like the idea that they're trying to get all the umpires to call everything the same? Yes, I think that's great. But again, I don't know enough about it to give you a legitimate answer to that. Would I want to be there? No, I'd rather be playing golf like I was this morning. And I'm sorry I'm a little late getting on here, but
Joe, let's first of all, let's get one thing straight right now. Thanks for joining us. I'm glad we got you off the golf course. But second of all, also, you know how many times you would have called horse blank if they had this when you were an umpire behind home plate? You know how many times that we could have told you how bad you were, and then when you tried to throw us out, we could say, Joe, look at the screen. You missed 7 calls in a row.
Yeah, well, see, that's what's really funny because all the years I worked, I never missed one. I didn't call them all right. I didn't call them all right, but I was out there for all of them, so I never missed. But
I'm agree.
The uniqueness of this is it's trying to get all the umpires to call the exact same pitches strikes, and that's a good idea. But who implemented it? Who did they have any umpires or players help design the system? Or, I mean, that bothers me. That's the one thing that bothers me. But and again, you know, I use that term very lightly, but I never missed one because I did tell Dick Williams that one day. He came out and he said, "You missed it. Just tell me you missed it, and I'll go away." And I said that exact same thing. I never missed one. He said, "You can't be that arrogant." I said, "I'm not being arrogant. I've been out here for all of them. I don't call them all right, but I've been out here for all of them." he got mad, but that's the way it was. Dick was one of those guys. He was a tough, hard-nosed manager, and might have been one of the best managers I ever saw. But he was, and it's funny because when he got out of managing and he started scouting, I think he worked with the Yankees a little bit. I used to see him at the screen when you'd walk off and he'd holler and come over and say hello and stuff. But he was a tyrant when he was on the field as managing his club. And you look at everywhere he went, he won everywhere he went. He just got under the management's skin, and they could only stand him for a few years, just like me. So, but that's it's good to see you guys. This is a nice trifecta having you guys here, you know.
It's only one of us you've ejected, Joe, though.
Yeah, well, you deserved it.
Just think if we would have had ABS, we'd still be in that game right now. We'd still be in that spring training game in 2016 because you were never going to call a strike. We would have ran out of challenges, Joe, and we'd still be in the 7th inning right now.
You know, you wanted to get kicked out of that game. In fact, it was really funny the way you did it. You said, "I got to have that pitch," and I said, "The ball's low," and you said, "I got to have that pitch." I said, "Why do you have to have it? Am I supposed to change the rules so it can be a strike when you're catching?" And you said, "Well, you've been missing them all day." And so I turned around to Freddie and said, "We need a new catcher. This one's not playing nice in the sandbox." And you got to leave early. You got to leave in the 6th inning, and I had to stay for all 9. That's not fair. So
that's right.
And that's yeah.
I was home before you got out of that game, Joe. I was home on my couch. It was on ESPN. I was watching the game like this as you were finishing up. I showered, got home. It was the 7th inning. You were still in the 7th inning. So thank you. Yeah. I appreciate that.
Joe, does this?
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say, does this ABS? Do you feel like if you were in it and a player was constantly challenge you and getting it wrong, does it feel like you would have to have some type of, I don't want to say ego, but like you have to like take yourself out of it because all of a sudden you think it's a correct call. Like everybody makes mistakes, but instantly you're being questioned. Does it feel like it's something that the umpires are going to have to adjust almost their personality, not necessarily just their strike zone, in how they react to the situation?
Oh, absolutely, because it's a total embarrassment if you know you show it on the big screen and the ball touched the corner of the plate and you called it a ball, or you called it a strike and it's off the plate. No umpire wants to miss a play or a pitch. The greatest thing that ever happened when we started putting in replay was that the players now realize that the umpires are trying to get every play right. That was the best thing that could happen to player and umpire relations, was that you could go to instant replay and correct it if they made a mistake. And it was like a light coming on that the players really, well, he was trying to make the right call, or he did make the right call. he didn't call me out because he didn't like me. And there was so much of that going on before we put in instant replay. You'd call a guy out and he'd say, you just called me out because you didn't like me. Well, that's the furthest thing from the truth. And you know, one of the greatest pieces of advice I ever got as an umpire was from Doug Harvey. And I'll never forget, Dave Kingman had argued a 3-1 pitch, and I called it a strike, and he gave me a little guff behind the plate. It didn't really show me up. And then the next pitch was a little bit outside, and I called ball 4. And he says, oh, you might as well have called that one too. And I chased him to first base screaming at him because I was so mad at what he said that I'm screaming at, I just called ball 4 and I'm chasing him to first base. So Doug Harvey walked down between innings and he said, you know what? You're going to be better than they are on your worst day. So why would you let them ruin your day? Don't get mad. Go do your job. If they say something to get kicked out, kick them out. But go do your job and don't get angry. And I don't think from then on I ever got angry on the field. I realized what he had said, you know, go do your job. That's what you're paid to do. If they get out of line, kick them out. If they do their job and they don't, you know, affect the game, then let it be. And that was the greatest piece of advice I ever got, you know, and my blood pressure went down a lot because I didn't get angry anymore. And prior to working with Doug Harvey, when Dick Williams and I were there, we were screaming at each other from first inning on. And but I never let that affect me after Doug had that one meeting with just, hey, don't let them ruin your day. And I tried not to. And here's another thing. I don't think you guys know because you've been around baseball enough. And you know what an umpire's job is. And I tell people this all the time. Your first job as a baseball umpire is to protect the game of baseball. And that doesn't mean the commissioner's office. That means to protect the game as we know it on the field. That's your first priority. Now, your second priority is to protect the profession of umpiring. And that might not mean the union. That might mean you'll have to make a decision that's not in the best interest of the union, but it's in the best interest of the profession of umpiring. And your third responsibility is to do what you know in your heart is morally honest and correct. And if you do those 3 things in that order, nothing you do on the field is going to be wrong. And I don't think people understand that part of what the umpire's job is. They look at the umpire as a necessary evil. And the crazy thing about it is the umpire may be doing his job, and it's like George Will said, that umpire is just like a Republican. He's not concerned at what the result of his decision is going to be to anybody. and he's right. The umpire has to do to the best of his ability to get every play right and every pitch right. And some of the discipline that we have to hand out as umpires, whether it be warnings to the pitcher or warnings to the dugout or kicking somebody out of the game, that's part of the fabric of the game. And to blame an umpire for doing his job is a mistake. I get more upset with an umpire that doesn't do his job than I ever would for somebody that does what he's supposed to do.
Joe, first of all, when you kicked Mark Burley out in Cleveland for not balking because you got picked off, that was personal. I know it was because you were mad at Ozzie. So anyway, we'll get into that another time. But
you sound like Hawk Harrelson.
Exactly. But here's the thing. I agree 100% with you about the 3D. The fact that the 3D stuff is not, and I've said this ever since, and I'll use the game yesterday with the Yankees and Malinsky behind the, or I think it was Malinsky behind. Who was it? I think it was Malinsky behind the plate. But he's calling balls that are a 1/10 of an inch low in the middle of the plate. He's actually right if you go by the definition of the rule book, because if that ball's coming down, a 1/10 of an inch is like this. So if you take this far, you move it forward where the ball was, that pitch is actually a strike. He's calling it. And that's my biggest gripe I have about ABS is that if the rule book says that the strike zone is a 3D thing, that's a 3D and it moves with each hitter, then why can't we come up before we implement this a 3D box that we can show like they have on TV? I don't know. Maybe I'm way off, but I think most umpires get it right.
No, yeah, and you're right as to analyzing what you're seeing and how they're developing this process, because the strike zone is three-dimensional, and it's hard to say if that ball's in the front of the plate. If they'd have measured that pitch from the front of the plate, it would have been a strike. And now the ball is low when it gets to the middle of the plate, and it's not a strike. And you can't second guess an umpire on what he sees and what he's calling. And that's the hard part of this. But the good thing about this process is that baseball is trying to get all the umpires to be calling the same strike zone. And that's a good thing. No matter what anybody says, whether they like the system or not, trying to get every umpire to call the exact same pitches the exact same way is a good thing. And by the way, Burley said he'd never had a balk called on him, and the office called me and said he had 9 called on him before I called that one.
That's such a lie. Such a lie. Such a lie. And by the way, and I'm going to tell you this now. I'm going to tell you this right now, Joe. And then the next time, and I'm going to tell you this right now, and I know this is true. The next time that you had a Mark Burley start was in Chicago, and Angel Hernandez was on your crew that year. And Angel Hernandez called a balk on Mark Burley. And we told him before the game, we said, we're going to throw over. And they're going to call it a balk no matter what you do. So we want you to give the worst move ever to first base. And he literally gave I'm throwing over. And Angel Hernandez balked it. And I know why he did that, Joe, just to make you feel good about yourself, because you were on the same crew and you were the crew chief. And you can't tell me that I'm wrong, Joe. So when you say that you umpires don't hold grudges, you held a grudge for 2 months on Mark Burley. So that is some bull crap, Joe.
No, see, and you're wrong there, because all the umpires, and even I, loved having Mark Burley because he got the ball and he pitched. And when he threw the glove up in the air, the other 3 umpires said, "Oh no!" They were yelling at me not to throw him out. But we loved having Mark Burley. Everybody loved having pitch in any game because he got the ball and he threw it. And but you're gonna hate me saying this, but Frank Robinson was our boss at the time, and he said that I was right in calling both of those balks on him. So you have to talk to Frank, and he's not with us anymore. So I can't. I don't have to argue with you. And you know what? Don't you remember? You can't argue balks with an umpire anyway.
Hey, while we're on it, last one for you, Joe. How do you think, you worked with Angel Hernandez a lot. How do you think he would have handled the system and the change? Because this is probably the biggest change we've seen in the game's history for umpires. And another guy I think you worked with a ton in CB Buckner, who went viral on social media this weekend for, getting 6 of 8 wrong on the overturned on the challenges.
Well, these guys adjusted to the system that you gave them the first time, the Quest Tech, the zone evaluation system, and they'll get better. And you got to realize they're throwing this on them now without having any what you call dress rehearsal. And that's the funny thing about umpiring. We don't have batting practice. We don't have the ability to go look at pitches before the game starts. And so, I feel for guys whenever I see a call where I think he made a mistake, or any umpire makes a mistake, I feel for him, because we've all been there. It's like, and you guys realize that the guy throws a pitch right down the middle and you swing and miss it. You go, what was I doing? How did I miss that? And umpires are the same way. They're human beings, and they're going to make mistakes. And let's be realistic. They're going to be some umpires that are going to be a little bit better than other umpires. But in the scope of things, the professional baseball umpires in the major leagues are the best officials in all the sports all over the world. And you can't deny that. And do they make mistakes? Yes. Are they human? Yes. Are they going to make mistakes? Yes. There'll be times that you'll scratch your head and say, what was I doing? But this is human nature. People are not perfect, but we're making every effort to get them as good as we can get them. And I think that's a good thing.
Well said. Well, Joe, it was awesome to catch up with you. We love having you on. Yeah.
Hold on. Before we let Joe go, do you have any albums coming out anytime soon, Joe? 'Cause Burley, when Burley ever gets into the Hall of Fame, he wants to know if he can play your new album if he gets into the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. I'll write a song for him.
You know he did that, Burley, one time when he knew you were umpiring. He made the sound people when he walked out play your one of your albums so you would hear it. Did you ever know that story?
I didn't know that story. I knew John Smoltz would call and ask, what's Joe West's favorite song? And I always said Merle Haggard's Fight Inside of Me. So whenever I walked out and Smoltz was pitching, they were playing the Fight Inside of Me on the loudspeaker.
That's smart. That's a good tactic there.
I got you were talking about the balks earlier. I called a balk on Clayton Kershaw, and I almost kicked him out of the game. I was going after him, and the second baseman for the Dodgers got between us, and he went and told Brian Roberts. He said, "Look, you don't want to make him mad. Let's try to make up." So the next day, the Dodgers decided we're going to play Joe West's walk-up music. We're going to play his songs from his album. And don't you know they batted around? So, maybe they should have played it more often.
Before I know you got to go, but do you still go to the place? Is the place in San Francisco you used to go play after the games? Is it still there? Do you ever get out to San Francisco?
Closed.
What was it, Gold Rush?
The Gold Dust.
Gold Dust, yeah. Joe would umpire a game, and then he'd go sing afterwards. You could buy him a beer, and you might get a strike called against you.
Yeah, see, you keep trying to bribe people. Why would you do that? I don't understand. You have a bad attitude. You know, I'm gonna have to call Hawk and talk to him about you. You know, but there was a place across the river in Cincinnati called Bobby Mackey's, and John Kibler and Bruce Fremming and Dick Stello and I went in there the first year they opened. And Bobby Mackey was an old-time country singer. In fact, he came to my record-breaking game in Chicago when I set the record for most games umpired. And but we went to Bobby Mackey's from the first week he was open till I retired. And we were talking about that today because Bobby could play anything that was ever recorded on the radio or played on the radio. And John Kibler's favorite song was Lay Down Sally. And so one night Bobby went up to our table and said, "What's your favorite song?" And John Kibler jumped up right away and said, "Lay Down Sally." He went right up on the stage and played Lay Down Sally. And I talked to the band members after that. And I said, "Is that the first time y'all ever played that?" He said, "Absolutely." But we used to go to places like that where they'd welcome us. And there was, who was the pitcher that pitched for Cincinnati? Homer
Bailey.
Homer Bailey. He said, he one night he sent the waitress over to our table and said, "Buy Joe West and the other umpires a beer because I'm pitching tomorrow." and I sent the waitress back and said, "No, tell him no thank you. Bobby gives me drinks because I get up and sing."
Everybody trying to butter you up. See, I sense the theme here. Yes, they knew what they were doing, or at least trying. Joe, enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks again for joining us. Great to catch up. Appreciate you.
Yeah, it was good. Now I got to call Hawk Harrelson. Can you imagine that?
Oh boy, I hope he answers.
I wish we could record that phone call. Yeah, I would listen to that phone call all day long. All day long.
Yes.
Report back. Maybe we'll report back after that one. Thank you, Joe.
Take care. See ya.
You too. All right, FT, everyone else for hanging around. We appreciate it. So thank you. Back to normal protocol on, what is it? Wednesday is tomorrow? Yes. 1 to 3 Eastern, the usual, like we're doing every single day. Thanks to Joe West, Jim Bowden, Ken Rosenthal. Great show as always. Whole crew behind the scenes, new graphics. We love you. Hot Sheet, Baseball America, really, really good timing for them with these extensions for pre-debut guys. So make sure you check that out on the Baseball America YouTube channel.